Hello everybody and welcome to This Nintendo Life, episode 303. My name is NBZ and I am joined by Bally once more on this palindromic number. We don't get it enough, palindromes, as I always said, you know, they're great, they're the best thing. Not just because my name's a palindrome, just because it's a nice thing and it's pleasing and satisfying. And here we are on a day of many pleasing and satisfying things, one of which we're going to talk a lot about
I think
today.
this is episode 304.
Shit. Well, you know what? 304 is still a good number. Is it actually? Did you? I don't know if we changed it.
I didn't edit this, so that's my fault.
Well, Bally didn't edit the document.
Hands up.
Well, here we are. You know, I'm just going to shout out palindromes for last time, for having missed it last time, for the fact that I didn't acknowledge it. As a palindrome person, the fact that I didn't acknowledge 303.
You and Mawam?
Me and Mawam, exactly.
Yes.
Everyone's favourite palindromes. So, no, I'm sorry. Apologies to last episode for not acknowledging the palindromic nature. However, we're here at 304, which, you know, if you add those numbers together, they make 7. And apparently, according to the internet, there's going to be 3 games with the number 7 in the upcoming Nintendo Direct next time, Bally. So
What? Really?
I don't know. That's what people are speculating. It's out there. The rumor mill is happening. So people are trying to figure out what are the 7s. They've already said, someone who's a leaker or whatever has already said it's not Ace Attorney 7. So that's me out of the picture. I don't care anymore. But some other rumors of like Dragon Quest 7 getting remade again, even though they did it on 3DS, which is a weird one. But who knows? I mean, one of them is going to be Final Fantasy 7, of course, because that's coming to Switch. We know that that's coming, so that feels inevitable. But I don't know. Are there 7s out there? There's not many series with 7 who've got to the number 7 in their franchise. You know, Resident Evil, probably a good one, Resident Evil 7. But yeah, Mega Man, that has multiples, X7, regular 7. So, I don't know. Who knows? But that's what the smoke on the street is, yeah. 3 different games with 7 in the title is my guess. So we'll see if the jackpot hits. But otherwise, we're here. Hello, it's video games. I'm MBZ. I'm joined by Bally. Hi, Bally. How's it going?
Hi, MBZ. I'm always more tired at the end of a Sunday, but I appreciate this recording slot because this is good. We have played more Silksong. That is important. I like this recording slot, but as a parent of 2, the end of a Sunday is like this, just the most exhausting time period because you're at the end of a weekend and 2 straight days of having 2 children, and I'm just like flat as a pancake. But I'm going to push.
Yeah,
through.
it's ironic, isn't it, that the weekend then becomes the time at which you're tired?
Oh my god, Sunday blues, like going into a Monday, like that's
right,
non-existent. I'm the actual opposite at the moment. I'm like,
do you have Friday blues?
Friday? Well. Sort of. I love Fridays. Fridays is like my best day because it's the end of the working week. I've not got the boys and it's all just everything's winding down, and I might have like a slightly longer lunch break, you know. I certainly did this weekend, obviously, because Silksong's out, and you know, it's just I like the vibes of Friday. But yeah, Saturday and Sundays, they're hard work. They are such hard work. I'm sure there's parents listening thinking, yes, Bally's right. Weekends are very hard work, but we got there and we're at Sunday night. Both boys are asleep. That's the important thing, and I'm good to go.
And it's ready to talk time about. That was a good sentence. The video games. Bally, what are we going to do on today's show?
We've done this a couple of times this year. I think we did it for DK. And
yes.
What else did we do it for this year? There was something else.
Anyway, I think when Switch 2 came out, we probably just did that, I imagine.
So we're just dedicating the episode to Hollow Knight Silksong. It's just come out. I've played 8 hours. MBZ is going to reveal how much he has played. But he claims he's not beaten the game, which
no, I haven't.
There you go. That's something. It's a bit like DK. You can't beat it in a weekend. So we're just going to talk about this one game. We've got some listener questions in about the game, and we're not going to go spoilers. I think we're going to maybe talk about some mechanics. We're probably going to try not to talk about specific bosses, unless you're dying to mention a few bosses in a spoilery section at the end. But we'll keep it clean.
Right. Yeah. I think generally speaking, we can keep it to early game stuff. I think it's the interesting thing about Hollow Knight. We can get into it is like, because there's been no reviews, there's been no pre-release stuff. It was very much spoiler free for everybody going into it, and so if you for some reason still want to do that and go into it in that way and not know anything, then probably best to not listen to this episode because there's a lot of stuff that has to be discussed in terms of the way this game works and its mechanics and all that sort of thing. But I would say that, if you are early in the game, if you played more than Bally's played 8 hours of the game, then you'll be fine. I think we'll just cover up to where he is in terms of light mechanical stuff, and we can talk about the story premise and things like that, and then maybe if we want to go a little bit in more depth at the end, we can cut off a spoiler segment if we feel that that's necessary. But yeah, I think it's a game that I probably would advise people to go and play before listening, just because there are some fun surprises in there, and just like understanding how this game is different from its predecessor is also quite interesting. So yeah, I guess let's get into it. Hollow Knight Silksong, a video game, in many ways more a meme than a video game. I don't know how this happened, how it took on this mythic status, but somewhere in the last 7 years, it went from, okay, this is a DLC for Hollow Knight, part of their Kickstarter, which, by the way, they sent their Kickstarter backers who had backed at a certain tier keys for Hollow Knight, or for Silksong, sorry, because it was technically still part of a stretch goal for their Kickstarter. So, Shovel Knight, Hollow Knight, both in similar boats of doing Kickstarters and then having them last for infinitely long time because of the backer rewards and because of the stretch goals that they had. So yeah, a game that, in those intervening 7 years has taken on this status where it becomes the only thing people talk about in Nintendo Direct chats or in Summer Game Fest or in literally any video game event. Everyone's like, is it going to be this time? Is it going to happen? And I think part of that is also just the silence on the part of Team Cherry, where they had not communicated anything really. There's been lots of other companies talking about it, or other companies featuring it. And, famously, Microsoft 2 years ago had it in their press conference, and they were like, everything you've seen is coming out in the next 12 months. And then lo and behold, Hollow Knight was nowhere to be seen. And so people were, I don't know, getting very antsy about it. Like the lack of news. I think there was an Edge cover in 2022 or something, and so people were like, oh, it has an Edge cover, that must mean it's getting close.
How many people in our Fantasy Critic League have bid on this game or had it in their draft?
I think if we go back through the history of the league, probably the last 5 years at least. I
think I've had it once or twice personally. I think you might have had it once.
It's passed between people. Everyone has had a go at Hollow Knight and just hoping that it's coming out. And obviously we got the announcement recently. Hey, it's coming out. And it's coming in 2 weeks, so better get ready because you've got to play it soon, which was, I think, surprising for quite a few people. I think, I had a sense it was going to be 25. They reiterated it a couple of times, first in the Switch Direct earlier in the year, but then Microsoft was saying, well, you can play it on our handheld, which comes out this year, so it had to be before the end of the year at the very least. Definitely a little sooner than I expected, but it is here. And we've been playing it, and I think I just want to do a bit of context as well in terms of Hollow Knight, because we have talked about Hollow Knight kind of recently in our top 50 games of all time, where I believe it dropped down to number 49 on that list.
Oof, wow, okay.
And I think that, so I've done a couple of things. I went back and I've listened to us talking about Hollow Knight on the show. So I talked about it in 2017 when it came out. I actually talked about it in August of 2017, which is a few months after it released. Apparently on that episode I was like, it was on sale, so I bought it. So probably the Steam summer sale happened and I bought it then. And then you played it in 2018 when it came to Switch, or just maybe a few months after it came to Switch, basically. And going back and listening, we're both very positive about the game. We both think it's fantastic. It's a very, very good Metroidvania, one of the best we've played. And I think, one of the things I say in that episode is I love Ori for its platforming, but I love Hollow Knight for its combat. And I think that's something that I'd kind of forgotten in the intervening years of how good that stuff is, how engaging the moment-to-moment fights are and the bosses and all that sort of stuff. And I do feel like maybe we've done Hollow Knight a little dirty in our list of putting it down there, but it's one of those things where time wears on, you don't think about it as much, and until you kind of revisit your opinions on things, it's trickier to re-engage and be like, okay, did I actually like that as much as I thought I did? And so I think a combination of playing Silksong and then also kind of thinking about Hollow Knight and when I played it and what my thoughts were at the time, it's definitely gone up in my estimation a bit, I would say, having done that. Bally, how do you feel after years away, having not played a Hollow Knight game, and how does it sit in your mind?
Yeah, in my mind, Hollow Knight was always okay. This is the most Souls-like of Metroidvanias that we've played, and I had never played like a Souls game. I mean, I've now played 30 hours of Elden Ring, but I've also played lots of other games that are inspired by Souls games, even tougher Metroidvania style Souls games, a bit like Nine Souls earlier this year, although I'd argue the Souls aspect of that is a lot more reduced compared to a game like Hollow Knight or Hollow Knight Silksong.
Yeah, it's far more Sekiro focused, where
Very
Sekiro
much.
is like more about the combat and less about like the run back of like
Exactly.
losing a bunch of currency and then having to recover it.
Less about the exploration, much more about the boss fights themselves.
Yes.
And I think that my memories of Hollow Knight are, this is really cool, this is really hard and just really brutal, especially like the last kind of third of that game. And there were just some long ass corridors that felt like they were very far from boss fights, and it's quite a plodding game. Like I don't remember your character, the Hollow Knight, moving particularly fast. There were different move sets and things, and
you do get the dash at some point, which makes things a bit better. But,
yes. And yeah, my thoughts were very positive, but then it's one of those games where a game like Ori just completely supplants it in my mind, even though arguably it's a very unfair comparison and they're just such different games.
They're doing very different things. I mean, they're playing in the same space, but like I said, right, one is far more interested in the kind of enemy design and dodging attacks and fighting compared to one which is all about jumps and platforming and I think the original Hollow Knight does have its fair share of platforming stuff,
yes,
but a lot of it is locked to like hardcore post-game like
a little side thing, or exactly
right, like the Path of Pain is something people talk about that is supposedly very, very challenging, but that's a thing that isn't part of the main kind of thrust of the game, and so a regular player is not going to engage with that sort of stuff. Basically, they're mainly there for the fights.
So going into Silksong, I was thinking, I think I'm probably going to like this a lot. I think it's probably not going to be the absolute pinnacle of Metroidvanias that I've played. I was also feeling fairly confident because I think both of us have actually played a hell of a lot more Metroidvanias in the last 7 years since playing the original Hollow Knight, and especially feeling battle hardened after beating 9 Souls early in this year, as I mentioned, and that is arguably the hardest game I've ever beaten. Probably, like, I need to have a think about that.
Definitely the hardest 2D game
definitely
that I've finished.
Yeah, and that's all about countering, and there's so many mechanics and 3 types of counters we've said on the show before, and like so many different types of weapons and this, that, and the other. And Hollow Knight and Silksong are both much more straightforward games. So I was feeling good going in, and I think for the first 3 hours of this game, it was very easy breezy, quite slow, but I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed meeting all these different creatures and the areas, and then the bosses just started ramping up a little bit. Okay, here we go. And then there were like these little areas that, there's not just boss fights that are very tough in this game, there's also kind of kill rooms where you're stuck in a room and you have to defeat waves of enemies to get out of the room, basically. Those are also very tough in this game. And then by then I was like, damn, I'm like 5 hours in and this is really tough. And now at 8 hours in, I'm like, okay, this game, it's really awesome. It's really tough. I think there's a couple of issues I'm having so far that are the same as the first game, but I am absolutely loving it so far. I think, can I get on those 2 issues very quickly now?
Sure, yeah.
So one issue is like, I feel like I've collected a lot of stuff already, but none of these things are making me any more powerful or battle hardened.
Your inventory's just full of like, here's an old scroll, and
it's like
here's
an old
a chestnut,
scroll, or
and here's a berry.
Or here's an alternate crest. Here's an alternate this. And alternate doesn't mean more powerful. It just means different battle style. Or I've not collected 4 pieces to make a new health heart, essentially, from Zelda.
Right.
Like, I'm
a new mask in this case.
A new mask. I'm 8 hours in. I've even looked up a guide on YouTube, and that guide suggests that I'm not far enough to have gotten 4 masks, which is just insane. So
and to be fair, the original Hollow Knight also, I wouldn't say had this issue, but like it's designed around you not having upgrades. Basically, it's like the first nail upgrade you get is like 10 hours into the game, right?
Exactly.
And it's a similar thing here, right? You're going to have to wait that long in order to get a single upgrade. And then to get another upgrade, there is, oh my God, there's like a sprawling set of side quests that I'm currently on trying to do in order to get like another upgrade to my pin in this case, as opposed to a nail.
Right.
Which I think is just very nice as like, you know, I guess when I played the first Hollow Knight, I didn't really think of it contextually, of the idea of like, this is a world of bugs and they live in a bug kingdom, and, you know, the things that they're using are like human things that are tiny, right? And so she has a little pin, and she uses it, you know, with silk, which is like, you know, thread essentially. And you can, you know, restore that by, you find these like, these, what do you call them, like when you're doing sewing, right? You have those like little circular things. No, not needle, like it's like a circle thing that has all the thread around it, basically. A thimble of some kind, I can't remember.
Thimble's a thing that goes in your thumb or a finger. You are thinking of a...
I have no idea. You can maybe Google it in the background, Bally, but basically you find those things and you know, that's the thing that refills your silk, you know, like the way in which they contextualize human things in like this miniature format that is like part of the world. Like, I don't know, something about it is just very cool, and it's hitting me a lot more this time than it did with Hollow Knight, because I think with Hollow Knight I just kind of went into it as a video game. Silksong, I'm going into it knowing the community around it, knowing there's a lot of story and there's a lot of lore and there's a lot of kind of like stuff built on the bones here, which I wasn't really paying attention to as much my first time through the first game. And so I think that is really hitting me more. So I have played 18 hours 41 minutes of this video game.
18? Wow. Up to this. Good effort. It's called a bobbin, by the way. A bobbin.
A bobbin. Okay, perfect. So it probably would have been closer to 22, except I went and saw a bunch of flats on Saturday, so that took up like a good 4 or 5 hours of my day, and I still have played 18 hours and 41 minutes of this video game. I am absolutely fucking in love with Hollow Knight Silksong. I think... we have a question later from Hawksbill. Maybe we can just talk about it now.
Okay.
Hawksbill says, because, you know, we've said on the show before, we're like, you know, we're not really Hollow Knight people, but I think we're going to be Silksong people. Hawksbill asks, have you become Silksong people as expected? And I have to say, without a shadow of a doubt, fucking slam dunk it. Yes, I am a Silksong person, 100% guaranteed. And I think a lot of that is down to my specific taste in games and what I like. And Bally, I'm pretty sure you know exactly what I'm talking about, but there's one upgrade that you get relatively early on that I was like, well, this is a me video game immediately, because you are quick. Hornet is different from the Knight. She is agile and lithe and able to like narrowly avoid attacks by like diving between enemies with her kind of like downward angled shot. There's a feeling to her movement and the speed and the way that she traverses the environment that is far more to my taste. And as a result, I like exploring the space more. I like going around and backtracking, which I always do in Metroidvanias, but I think part of my, not frustration, but like, I think, you know, if we think about the original Hollow Knight, you do have things like a dash, but generally your walking speed is quite slow, and the, you know, distance between places is quite far, and the fast travel is there, but it wasn't like the most convenient thing in the world. I think there's a lot of those things that this game has fixed, which is fast travel is very convenient, and there's multiple places to do it, and it's accessed very early in the game, so you get it pretty immediately. You know, there's a bunch of side quests in the original Hollow Knight, and I'd never engaged with any of them because it's a traditional Souls-like thing where it's like a guy says something and then you just have to remember what they said, and then maybe you'll find the other person. And here you have the wishes system, which is essentially a wish is a side quest, and so people give you wishes to grant, and when you get one from somebody, it enters your inventory, and you go over there into that little tab, and it says, oh, here are all the quests you have, and it also like logs like how many of the thing do you have. So an early one is there's this kind of druid kind of like moss bug, and she's like at a cauldron, she's like a kind of witch, and she's like, oh, go fetch me some berries, basically. And by that point you maybe have one or two.
I did that one. That was a nice reward.
Yeah, totally. And so like the thing is, with that quest, it tells you how many of the berries you already have, and it doesn't like lead you to them or anything necessarily. You have to still go searching and find and just use your intuition to figure out, okay, where would I be going? But the fact that it is logged and it is tracked there is such a significant upgrade, and it's such a thing for me of being more of a checklist person. I think having that there and knowing that I can tick it off and be like, oh, I can get that and I can probably get a nice reward for it that will help me going forward, that stuff is working so much better for me, as well as like just the immediacy of getting the map. Like, I think there's a lot of people who bounce off Hollow Knight originally because the first 2 or 3 hours you have no idea where you're going. The map is very hard to pass because you have to find the map maker, and then you don't even know where you are on the map because you don't have the charm that tells you where you are. And they've kept that system here. You have to put the compass on in order to like see where you're going, which is a little frustrating still. I think it's annoying because it's like, I never want to remove that. You know, I'm never in the whole game going to remove that because I need to know where I am.
I am happy removing it while I don't have the map for an area, because when you don't have the map for an area, the compass doesn't actually tell you where you are in that area.
That's a good point. That's a very good point.
Because I did think, why would I not want to remove this? And then that's one thing where I definitely do think I am a Silksong person now, is I'm glad I played Hollow Knight before. I think it built me up for this experience. I'm glad I've played a game like Nine Souls before. I think that hardened me as well. But I think there's a bunch of Metroidvanias I've played in the last 7 years that have also prepped me for this moment. And I am definitely a Silksong person. I'm loving this game so far. I'm obviously 8 hours in. You're 10 hours behind you, Amy said.
Yeah.
And I think I'm really just embracing those moments where you're like, wow, I'm just in this area without a map and I'm just exploring and I don't know where I'm going. I don't know how to do this. I can't even see where I am on the map. And that gradual feeling of not being safe, far from it, like you care so much more about dying in this game than you do about dying in like an Ori or a Prince of Persia, or like these other more fast-paced games. This is just such a different style of game, and it's brought me right back to that feeling of like, I need to be really careful and really on it. And this game just battle hardens you very early on to be like, you mustn't die, you mustn't die, you mustn't die. And yeah, I'm loving it so far. I'm definitely quote unquote a Silksong person now.
Yeah, 100%. This is, I think, in terms of Nintendo stuff, this is my favorite thing I've played on Switch 2 so far. You know, I really loved Bonanza. I think Bonanza is a phenomenal game, like fantastic. But I think this speaks more directly to my taste just in terms of Metroidvania stuff. But then I really don't have a lot of issues with it. You know, I've seen a lot of chatter online. There's been a lot of people being like, this game is way too hard. And like, you know, they're annoyed because it doesn't have like the pogo traditional from Hollow Knight. I think there's a lot of people who are coming straight off of Hollow Knight into this, or a lot of people who are like such hardcore Hollow Knight fans. They've played the game like 50 times and they know it like the back of their hand. And so any kind of deviation from it feels, you know, off to them and like not.
You can fairly quickly unlock a crest that removes that pogo stick issue.
Totally, but that doesn't stop people writing a Steam review after 2 hours and being like, I hate that this is a diagonal, you know, it's going to happen. But I do think that our context for this is slightly different because we played the Hollow Knight once and it was years and years ago. So I do think that there's some people who are hardcore Hollow Knight people who are coming into this and being like, whoa, it's too different or it's too hard or whatever. And I think the thing that's brilliant about it is that they have really looked at, okay, who is this character? Who are they compared to the previous game? And like what matters to them from a moveset perspective, and how do we want them to control? And Hornet is a character who, even in the boss fight of Hollow Knight, is quick, is hard to hit, is like someone who you have to watch and be careful with because she's dashing around the screen, and they have built her moveset accordingly because that is the character that they had and that they are wanting to create. And so yes, it does feel different. I wouldn't argue that much different, not until like you get the sprint or you get the dash or whatever and you get like some of these abilities. There's still a lot of similar stuff, like, you know, jumping up walls and stuff is going to be very similar to the first game, but
supposedly Hollow Knight couldn't like ledge grab in the first game. Like that's a big change, for example.
And another point in its favor for me as a sicko of like, okay, Super Metroid I respect, I like a lot, you know. Fusion is the game that I love because it has the snappier control scheme and it has stuff like ledge grabbing, right, where you're going to try and get over a thing but you don't quite make it. Great, Samus grabs the ledge and can kind of vault over on top of it. And that has made platforming a lot more seamless as well. Like, I did like the platforming in the original Hollow Knight, but it wasn't like the thing I was there for. And this just kind of like, it really streamlines it. And there's a lot of other things as well that just make it easier. So, in the first game, if you died, you'd have your shade who you would like have to go back and kill, basically, and it was an enemy essentially.
Oh god, I remember now.
Could then kill you
Oh, God.
if you weren't careful. So you would have to like hit it like 3 times in order to like get your stuff back.
Plus, you might be injured by the time you get to your shade, and then it finishes you off, that kind of thing. Like it was...
Which to me is just so much harsher and far more soulsy in that way. And here it's like, that's all right. You can just hit your little thread and you get it all back immediately. There's no attacking you. It's just there.
Have you seen the rosary bead machine that you can bind them yourself?
Yes, and this is where I want to kind of talk about, like, it's taken a little bit of Elden Ring as well, because like I think I'm not sure if this was in previous Souls games, because I've not really played any of them aside from Elden Ring, but you get the little rune things on the ground in Elden Ring, right? And you can then pop them later when you need some extra, essentially.
I'm feeling quite confident that's a new thing for Elden Ring, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, I think it is. And it's really nice because it's a great mechanic for people who keep dying and losing stuff all the time, right? And the interesting wrinkle here with the rosary, so the rosaries are essentially your currency, and they are these beads, these red beads. They're kind of rare. You don't get them that often, at least in the early game, and only certain enemies drop them. So like basically a lot of the bugs here, they're all kind of like pilgrims, basically. They're on this journey, some like religious freaky journey, essentially. But they are kind of like freaking out, and so the bugs that are pilgrims are the ones that drop rosaries, because contextually in the story, those are the kind of sentient ones who would have had currency on them, I think, is why they have them, basically. As opposed to the other one, there are certain other bugs later on that don't, the flying ones and stuff like that. Those aren't like anthropomorphized in the way that a lot of the other bugs are. So they don't drop them. They only drop the second currency, the shards or whatever. But yeah, the rosaries, the interesting trade-off there is you pay an extra 20 rosaries in order to string them up. So you lose 20.
100% worth it.
Oh, it can be, definitely. If you think you're going to lose them and you want to save them for later, then you can either pay one of the merchants, or you can find one of these machines you're talking about to essentially bind them into a string, and then they just stay in your inventory, and if you die, then you don't lose them, and you can pop them when you need them. So say you're at a shop and you're like, shit, I'm like 50 short. Okay, I've got one here, I can pop it, and then I can just spend that currency directly. Or
you might need to pop one just to sit at a bench. Like, you have to pay for some benches. Like, there was one bench I found, and it needed 10 more than I had, and I was like, come on, Bally, don't pop one of your beads. Go and find the dude and come back. I was like, okay, I'm going to go find the dude and come back, because I don't want to pop an existing...
And that can really lead to a lot of tension of like, okay, I only have 2 health left, but I need to go back out there and fight some enemies in order to, hopefully get some more currency so then I can do this thing.
In order to get the bench to save to then progress forward. It's like, oh God, it's tense.
Yeah, there's a really nice balance. It's the same with the fast travel points as well. You have to spend currency to unlock those, but once you do that, then you have them available to you, and it's a lot easier to just kind of get around the world, which is much nicer.
I remember in Hollow Knight so clearly just building up the currency and frequently spending it on things that weren't number one on my shopping list, let's say. It was just because there was no ability to kind of make the rosary beads into a chain or whatever and keep them safe. I just felt that I was safer spending them on things that I didn't necessarily need or want, but it was better to spend on something rather than lose them, Like, I felt like I lost things constantly in the original Hollow Knight, whereas this... It is pretty hard to gain rosary beads, and on top of that, there are certain things I've already seen that are just... They're worth like hundreds and hundreds of rosary beads, and you get them at like... Maybe one of these enemies gives you 5, 7. Like, it's a pretty long slog to get a lot of them. And there are secret spaces where you can get lots at a time, but it's a long slog to get them. So I like that there's the ability to, chain them up. And it took me a while to realize that thing even existed, where you had the ability to chain them up yourself. And there's only one so far that I can remember, one location to do it, but I'm sure it sounds like there's more of them in the game.
Yeah, I feel like they become less necessary as you go on. I mean, so like, for example, I just bought an item that was 880 beads, and I did it because I'm in an area where I had a nice loop I could do that was close to a bench, where I could get, I think, a total of something like 45 per loop, basically.
Okay, yeah.
So I'd kill 3 enemies.
I've been doing a bit of grinding as well. It's quite important.
Yeah.
At points.
it can be worth it to get certain things you want. But yeah, I did that loop for like 20 minutes and was able to get up to 800 or whatever I needed for a certain item. And yeah, like you can certainly do that. And sometimes I want to do that because I feel like, what if I'm in a place and I have no beads and this thing is there and I want to get it, but I don't have enough? I want to have the ability to pop one when I can, because otherwise I just, I would be annoyed that I wasn't able to. And that certainly happens. There's certainly some areas in this game that are real fucked, man, real fucked. And you definitely are like, okay, I'm just getting to a place, and I feel like I need to have the beads there in order to, activate the bench or the fast travel point or whatever you need in order to, get out of there and save and, not die horribly and lose all your stuff in the meantime. There's the second currency as well, which is the kind of shard. I can't remember what it's called, but yeah, those little things.
Needles, pins, something like that.
Yeah,
something buggy.
They're basically used for your tools, which is like a separate system. I think it's interesting in that I had maxed those out pretty much immediately, and I didn't really have a way to use them initially. So it's a bit of a weird balance there in terms of the number you get compared to rosaries, but at this point in time, I think they work pretty well in conjunction with each other. I guess I kind of just want to talk about how this game looks, to be honest with you, because it's something I've, been very pleasantly surprised by and kind of struck by how fucking good this game feels, runs, looks. All of it is just immaculate. And
they definitely did get a Switch 2 dev kit. Like
100%. You can tell
that got one. But they have utilized it to the max.
They have 120 frames a second in handheld and 120 frames if you play it on a TV. Now, the problem with playing it on a screen is that it drops the resolution down to 1080. So when I've been playing on my monitor, 1440p monitor, I noticed it was a little blurry. So I have been playing at 60 on the monitor, but it still runs fantastically. Just looks amazing, just phenomenal, optimization. But I think just like the sheer visual splendor of this game is honestly pretty remarkable. I was watching a little bit of the original just for context, and that game feels a lot flatter in terms of its aesthetic. Like, it looks really nice still, but this game does like a pseudo 3D, stuff with parallax and the background. I think one of the best moments is like right at the beginning when you're running towards the first town and you run across the moss path and all these fucking bugs just fly.
It's like the Ghost of Tsushima running through the field moment. Riding through the field, a very early game. We want to show you visually what this game's all about. It's really
the splendor, cool. Yeah. And there's multiple moments like later on of like these places you go, and the way that the sound, the music, the sound design all kind of like it coheres into this thing that is just absolutely stunning, and it just creates this sense of place that I think is remarkable. Like I really have felt like anchored into the world and like what it's building, and a lot of that is because of how much they've leveled up in terms of their visual design and in terms of the audio stuff. Like it really is remarkable, and I've just really been blown away by it. There's so many spots of like, it looks like the asset is 2D, but then, you run past it and there's some sort of parallax happening. And it's like, how do they make it look like that? Like, it's really special stuff. There's so many areas that are just like, and I think that's the other thing. There's a lot more color in this game. Hollow Knight was a very gray game, right? There was a lot of similar looking spaces and not a lot of color. And this game is not the opposite of that, because there's definitely those areas that exist. But, when you zoom out on the map, you can see that each area, each zone has a color associated with it. And that color is basically themed around what that zone is, essentially.
I'm pleasantly surprised to be back in like a very mossy, grassy, wooded area that's feeling good vibes. Good vibes.
You're in like a forest area right now, basically. Yeah.
I've been stunned by like how good the Switch 2 is looking and running this game handheld. I've only played this game handheld so far, and
oh really?
Yeah, it just looks so crisp, and that frame rate I felt was especially noticeable on larger bosses. And fairly early on, there's a very large boss with like lots of limbs, and it's just coming at you, and it's like, wow, this looks stunning. Like, I was just so taken aback by like how beautiful this game looks, and combined with the soundtrack, which sounds very orchestrated, just sounds so incredible. And then on top of that,
there's a lot of choral stuff later on as well, which has been pretty tremendous.
And then combine that with some incredible like vibrations that they've got going.
Oh my god, yeah.
The Switch, what's it called? HD.
The HD Rumble. I guess HD Rumble 2 is
HD
technically,
Rumble
as we learned
2,
from
like,
playing Welcome Tour, it's
yes,
called the HD Rumble 2 now,
HD Rumble 2. That stuff is really, really impressive to amplify the impact of hits, bosses, footprints running along on grass, on different surfaces. Like, there's just really, really incredible feeling to this game that I wasn't expecting at all.
Yeah, that's really, it's not the level of like an Astrobot on PS5 or whatever, but I think as far as stuff on Switch using HD Rumble goes, this is one of the best implementations, honestly. And like, there's a subtlety to it, but also I think that's the thing that really adds to that sense of immersion. Like, I think the reason I feel so fully bought into the world and the space, even though it's a 2D game, is just the level of fidelity. Like, this is as close as you can get to like a AAA looking 2D game made from an indie studio. And obviously they had years and years and years to work on it and polish it, and by God they did. It is polished within an inch of its fucking life, but it is unbelievably impressive that a team this small was able to pull off something with this scope and this fidelity. It's really, really remarkable stuff. I've mainly been playing it on my monitor, and I was thinking like, I could have probably, played it on PC or played it on, PlayStation or whatever if I'm only going to be doing this. But playing it handheld has been very nice of like just before bed. But then also, I think I am locked in now that the Switch 2 Pro controller is my new favorite controller. It feels so good in the hands. It's so nice. The buttons are mushy in the way that I like. The analog stick is like perfectly balanced, and like I said, the HD Rumble through that controller specifically feels fantastic, and I think exactly what they were going for in terms of like the subtlety of it and the way that it kind of immerses you. So despite the fact that, yeah, sure, I could have played it somewhere else, I do think that Switch is the best place to play this for controller, for handheld, for all those reasons, and the optimization of, the 120 frames wherever you are is just, it's amazing stuff. And I can't say any more good things about how this game looks. Honestly, it's pretty great.
Should we get to some questions?
So I was gonna kind of maybe bring one of these in here, because I was kind of gonna ask the same question of you, which is, how do we feel about the level design and the way this map is built? Because something that I remember from the original is Hollow Knight is a relatively non-linear game. There's definitely sections that you have to do, or seems like you have to do in a certain order. I'm sure speedrunners have thrown all that out the window by this point in time, but there feels like a route through the game, and then you get to a point where it feels like, okay, it's a bit more open now. I don't really know where I'm going. Where should I be going? I think I felt for the beginning, and I guess up to the point where you are, that it was relatively linear. So let's bring in this question from Declan. What's your opinion on the map design from what you guys have played? Do you wish it was more or less connected? Are the benches and boss arenas in annoying places?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's fairly linear so far, like fairly linear within some fairly open spaces, if that makes sense. And that suits me up to where I am. If it decides to open up from now on, that's fine. But if it keeps going at its current rate, that's also fine. Like, I'm kind of happy both ways. Are the benches and boss arenas in annoying places? I did find this with the first Hollow Knight, where, yes, there were some bosses that were just a little bit far from the bench. However, was I always running at the boss from the nearest bench? Not always, and that's on the player partially, because I think with these styles of games, it is kind of on you to try and find the nearest bench to that boss. And I've definitely been guilty at least 2 times. There was one boss that I just defeated, and one of the kill rooms in the far northeast that we were talking about before, Emmy said. Both at that kill room and that boss, I just had a bench that was quite far away. And I know for a fact on the kill room there was a bench nearer. I'm not convinced you could get to that bench until you defeat the kill room. I could be wrong on that.
Okay.
And then for the boss, I'm fairly confident that there was no nearer bench. So yes, I think it's a slight downside that there's sometimes a bit of a sprint, and that's the other thing. Like, when you can sprint, you can cross this map pretty damn fast if you have to. Like, it's not too bad. And I've learned how to avoid certain enemies. Like, there's one enemy I had to keep avoiding before getting to the boss. Little bit annoying. Would I like more clear kind of save benches outside the boss rooms? Probably, but I think that the way that Silksong and Hollow Knight the worlds are just so interwoven with incredibly careful placement of benches and things. I think they kind of like the idea that you don't really know when a boss is coming, and part of that is important. It's important for them to not just have a bench followed by a big room, because you'll think, I guess there's a boss coming. And there's frequently times where you don't know a boss is coming, and that adds to the mystery, that adds to the vibes of what Silksong Hollow Knight before it went for. And I think that if they fix this issue, it would slightly neuter what they're going for. And as much as it slightly pains me to do a little quick sprint across the map, I'll take it, because it adds to the vibes, it adds to what they're going for. And yes, it's a bit tough, but guess what? This is a very tough video game, and that's just one aspect that is a little bit fiddly and a bit finicky, but I think I respect what they did.
Yeah, I think on that point as well, like, you know, there is a way in which they play with the music and the tension of, like, sometimes you'll walk into a room and the music will cut out and you're like, oh, okay, I think I'm coming up on a big thing, right? And so that you are kind of like anticipating it and like building up, and you're like, oh shit, when was the last time I saved? What was the closest bench? That sort of thing. And I think it also brings that kind of sense of like, I have to not fuck this up, right? Like, and I do think that, you know, there's a boss that I saw a lot of people complaining about on Blue Sky. It's the final boss of Act 1. It's a very difficult boss. It's also probably my favorite boss in the game so far. Ooh. I think so. I beat it this morning. It took me probably an hour, maybe an hour and 10 minutes or something, of just constantly going back and forth on it.
Where does it rank on Nine Souls bosses?
I would say like bit harder than the first boss of Nine Souls, probably, is my estimate. Because I remember that boss took me an hour back then, right? So like in terms of time spent on it, basically. Really good boss fight. Very, very satisfying to learn and understand and have the patience for. And I think patience is such an important word when it comes to Hollow Knight, and something that I found with all these bosses, and maybe why I am finding it easier than other people seem to, is that I remember from playing Hollow Knight that the most important thing is just watch the enemies. Yes. What are they doing? What are their patterns? Once you know what they're doing, you know exactly what you have to do to counter it. And learning those is so satisfying. There's a boss of the boss of the area that you're currently in, probably my second favorite boss in the game. And I remember dropping into that arena and dying in 3 seconds and being like, I have no idea what the fuck this thing is doing. How the hell am I going to beat this thing, right? And then you have that slow build-up of, okay, when it does this, okay, I jump here and I hover. Yes. Okay, great, that avoids that. Okay, oh, they're going to come at me. They're winding up for this. Like, the thing that is so fair, and I think that is the most important thing about these boss fights, they feel so fair, because when you're watching the boss, there is such a clear wind-up and cue for every animation, for every attack. So when a boss starts an animation, you know exactly what attack it's going to do, and it's just up to your reflexes to react in time to get those done. And that means, you know, as we've talked about, by the time that you are at the end of fighting a boss, you know them back to front. You have read them. You understand every move they do. Whatever they do, you could avoid it. You could get out of the way, and you could find a window to attack them and take their health down. And that boss, I think I did it yesterday, and it took me half an hour probably to go through and fight it multiple times. But I just loved it from start to finish. It was so much fun learning it and just understanding it and just getting in there and, yeah, finally facing it. And I feel like these guys just really perfectly get how many hits you need to make a boss satisfying. Of like, it's always a bit more than you want it to be, you know? It's always like, fucking, this guy should be dead. I've got 3 more hits. Like, surely has to be dead. And then you have like maybe 6 more than you need, basically. But that's enough to be like, I'm right on the fucking edge of my seat. I just need to hang on a little bit longer in order to get this done. And when you do it, it's like, it's almost surprising, because you're like, oh, that was the last hit? Oh shit, okay. Which is very satisfying.
I've got 3 questions for you. Okay. Number 1, do you like that they don't have health bars on these bosses?
Yes, I think it's a fantastic decision, and I think the game would be worse if they had them. Okay. Because what it does is it changes the way you play. And I think, as I was saying, Hollow Knight is about patience, right? It's about waiting and not being stupid and not rushing and not fucking up. And I think the fundamental issue with health bars is when you get to the end of a boss and you see the end of its health bar, every single time you get reckless because you're like, oh, I can just finish him. Oh, he's just got such little amount left. I know how much I can do. So you jump in and you get hit by an attack that you weren't prepared for, and you die with one fucking pip left on the health bar. And I think, it does work in other games. I totally get why other games do it. But because this game is so much about pattern recognition and just keeping your cool, just having that patience to sit there and just do it until you get there is a real satisfaction. So I do think it's a good choice, and I'm glad they did it.
So I might know the answer to this question based on that answer, but how often are you going for your designated R move instead of healing in that case? In boss
you mean
fights,
like
I
the
should
special
say.
attack?
Yeah, special attack. Only in boss fights I'm talking about.
It's tricky. It depends.
Because I barely use it in boss fights as a result. I'm very turtly, I'm very defensive, but as you've just described, that's actually quite a good strategy for the vast majority of bosses in this game. Stay calm, keep patient, keep needling away at their health, and you'll get there. And part of that is always save your recovery. Don't use up your special R move.
There are certain bosses which I will say I did use it for in specific instances, and that is when the boss summons smaller enemies. And this has happened a couple of times, and it can be frustrating for sure, because some of them are fucking pain in the ass. However, with careful timing of that move, you can clear the board of them, and that makes things a lot more manageable, basically. So sometimes you do have to just take the risk and be like, right, I'm not going to be able to heal, but I just need to clear these guys out the way, and then I just need to be careful for the next period of time until I build my attacks back up, to then I can heal, So
it is more advantageous to clear the space and take less damage as a result of clearing the space than it is to heal. That makes perfect sense.
Exactly. Yeah, totally. And I don't know, we can talk about the tools in a second or how much you've used them, but I have found in the late game the tools to be a lot more reliable and helpful as a secondary way of attacking your enemies and doing damage to them. They have been... One in particular that I have has a really cool setup with it, where I've got a couple of different charms, I don't know what they call them in this game actually, but like the things you attach to your crests basically. I've got a couple of those working together that work really nicely together, and are very, very satisfying to pull off and use, and certainly have reduced the time for certain boss fights as well.
These tools you're talking about, like the projectiles, or
so the first one you would have got probably is like the javelin spear one that you can throw.
I think it was like the third one I got, but okay.
Oh, really? Yeah. Okay, well, that's the thing with this game is you can get stuff in different orders. So, I have 6 of them, I think, at this point in time. And there's one that I got, I don't know, maybe 12 hours into the game. That's the one I've kept since then, because it's been very good and reliable, and combos well with a little other one thing that I have going on at the same time. That's been very satisfying, and I definitely have used and relied on those a lot more, and that's why those kind of shard things, the secondary currency, I'm actually running low on that a lot more frequently now, because
me too.
You go to a bench and it auto refills. Even if you don't want to auto refill it, it will just auto refill it. So if you clear it out, then you spend quite a bit of that currency as you're using your tools. And so, later, further on you get in the game, you're going to start using your tools a lot more, especially in boss fights. And that's where those little bundles of shards come in handy, of like, right, I just spent all my shards on that fight and now I died, so I have to get some more. So then I pop one of those, and the final act 1 boss that I had this morning, I popped like a couple of those at least to get myself more shards, because I was using the tool enough that I needed to refill it constantly, basically. So
my third question was, are you happy with the location of like benches in relation to boss fights, kill rooms, and that like distance between them sometimes?
Yes, so that was the thing I was actually going to come back to, so I'm glad that you asked it. So I am okay with it, and I think a couple of reasons. One, like we said, Hornet's fast, you can run. I like running in this game. I like the run to long jump to wall jump to glide, whatever, like to glide, to like stringing these moves together is very satisfying in an almost Ori-like fashion. Now, this game is not quite there in terms of the fluidity of movement and the expressivity of movement as the Ori games, but it's a lot closer than Hollow Knight was, and as far as that goes, I like moving through this game. I find it fun. I find it fun to optimize my way back to a boss fight and get there very quickly. So back to what I was saying of like a lot of people complaining on Blue Sky about this boss that I was fighting, the Act 1 final boss. Everyone was like, that run back is a fucking disaster. It's such a nightmare. It takes forever, blah, blah, blah. I got it to the point where that run back for me was about 12 seconds. And that is just pure optimization of I jump here, do this, wall jump, okay, off there. Then I do this, the down slash, okay. And like I had perfected the run back to the point where it became a fun thing to do in and of itself. That I enjoyed, which I think is maybe just a quirk of me liking movement in games, and I'm happy to do that. But I also think there's a really important factor to the run back in this game and in games like this. And you can't have the run back be overly long because then it just becomes really annoying and then you're just like losing your momentum completely. But there is enough time, I think, in the run back to reset yourself and to say, okay, what do I do next time? Like, I think if you were to jump straight into the boss again, there is a sense that you could get on tilt a lot more, which is to say just die a lot of times in a row because you're making silly mistakes, stupid mistakes, because you're just running your head against the wall constantly. With the break in between, with the fact that you do have to run back to the boss and you do have to take that time to not mess up getting there, there is another degree of patience to it of, okay, I'm going to get here. I'm not going to be stupid and run in as soon as the boss fight starts. I'm going to wait. I'm going to see what they do. I'm going to hang back and I'm going to slowly take my way through it. And that's how you learn it, is by having that reset point in your brain. By doing the run back, it basically acts as a way to reset your cognition and to say, okay, what should I be doing here? And then you get to the room and you're far more locked in, I think, as a result of it. So I feel like I'm becoming an apologist for Silksong and every decision it makes.
I know, we sound like massive apologists for this game.
100%, but I really truly believe it because my experience with the game has been that way, where I have been able to go into these boss fights and like none of them have taken me more than, let's say, 15 tries. I think that's probably the maximum I've done so far.
Oh, really? I might have edged past that on one of them, but
yeah, and I'm sure I will later on. I'm sure it's going to get worse and worse as it goes on and going to get harder and harder, but I do think that where I'm at with it right now, I don't mind it, and I don't think any of the runbacks has been that bad or that egregious. Personally,
what do you think?
I think they're fine.
What do you think about my theory that they don't like to give away too much when certain bosses are coming, and that the location of benches? I'm sure on certain bosses it is very clear. It's like, here's a bench and here's a big room. It's coming, but that's maybe 1 in 10 bosses I would guess in this game. Like, do you like that? Do you think that they are hiding them on purpose a bit?
Yeah, I do. I think that part of what this game does well, as we've talked about, is that world building aspect, and I think there is a thing that these guys are thinking about when they're thinking about placement of benches and like where would a bench be, what makes sense to have one. In what place, and I think that is a bit more of a consideration than even obviously they have to consider mechanically, like when do people really feel like they need a bench, like I feel like that they place them in the places where you're like, oh my god, I really fucking needed one of those, like it's a similar Castlevania feeling of like so much of Castlevania games is, holy shit, where's the save room? Oh my god, I'm so low on health. I really need a save room. Someone fucking give me a save room. And I think benches in Hollow Knight act very similarly, where you feel like you're at the end of your tether. And sometimes there's one area, Bally, that I did yesterday that I probably actually shouldn't have done. I realized after the fact, like I actually should have gone to the other area that I ended up doing this morning instead and finishing Act 1. But I went to this area is called Sinner's Road. All I'll give you is the name, Sinner's Road. It is truly fucked. I was like, this is absolutely disgusting. I am getting destroyed every way to Sunday. Like, there is a whole mechanic that is awful and just like such a pain in the ass. There is precision platforming you have to do that if you are trying to do it with the base crest with the kind of diagonal is a goddamn fucking nightmare. And so I had to switch over to like the regular pogo. It's awful. But what I realized is that I wasn't supposed to be there, so I shouldn't have been doing it at that point in time. And the thing is, I did most of the area, and there is something they do with that area as well that is truly so fucking disgusting that I was so mad about it. And and I had to look up, like, come on, surely they don't, it's to do with the bench, right? It's like, I really should have something here, and they are fucking with me in a way that feels just you can almost feel the developers laughing in the background, like there is a sadistic nature to what they do in this area that I was like, oh fuck you guys. Like, it really messed with me. But I still appreciated it. I appreciated it because there is a purpose to what they put you through, and then making you go through another thing that is even more of like a, oh my god, I have like no health left and I've got to do this, and that's the thing that's going to help me. But I felt like I was losing my mind, but then I came back this morning and just kept playing, and I was like, this game's fucking amazing. So I think that's the thing, is there are certain areas in this game that you could stumble into and not be prepared for. I don't know if you found it, but there's like a big red guy who's like not a boss but like a mini boss, and he's guarding an area. There's a lot of people who fight that guy, without having the dash, by the way, just with regular moveset early on in the game, and kill him. And your reward for killing him is an area that you're just not equipped to fight in, basically. It's a lot harder than you are ready for at that point in time in the game. And so I imagine a lot of people had my Sinner's Road moment with that area, because they're stubborn and they're like, I'm just going to beat this guy and I'm going to get through.
I've forgotten what the reward is for that mini boss.
It is to go to a new area, basically.
Oh, okay.
But that area is a place that you don't want to be, given how difficult it is, basically.
I'm sure I defeated that boss, but I don't remember this area you're talking about. But anyway, maybe I didn't defeat that boss.
Maybe you fought a different version of him at some point now, because he does reoccur in multiple points in time. But I think that's the thing with the way this game is built is, yes, there are going to be areas that are going to really fuck with you, and are going to have you cursing, and you're going to be like, oh, fuck this fucking video game. But I think the thing is, it's so well crafted and built that you're just like, you got to respect it, And I think that, that's kind of where I've come down on it in terms of, the difficulty and the challenge of what it's presenting to you, because
I am convinced that 3 hours into the original Hollow Knight, there were not standard enemies that took 5 hits. Like, I think I do agree with that sentiment. I've seen that floating around. Like, very early on, there are frequent enemies that take at least 5 hits just to take out. So, and I'm pretty sure a lot of the early enemies in Hollow Knight also didn't like take 2 health away. But
I think that's the difference here, right? Is that because the way that healing has changed, in that you heal 3 at once as opposed to 1 at a time.
Right.
So you have to like build up and then you heal 3 health as opposed to standing in a corner and slowly charging 1 by 1, which does significantly change it in terms of the pace and the way it works. And so I do appreciate that people are finding that struggle, but I don't know. I do feel like the bosses are balanced in that way that we've been talking about, which is like, I do think it's closer to Nine Souls in the way the bosses have been balanced, of like, just don't get hit, basically.
Yes.
is the thing. It's like, okay, yeah, sure. Like, you could take more hits, but like, the real purpose behind these boss fights is to learn them to such a degree that you don't. And I think that's kind of where that's coming from.
Because for reference, and people who don't really understand, Nine Souls are what we agreed, MZ, more or less, was on multiple of the toughest bosses in that game. So in Nine Souls, you get vials that are like your healing thing. You like smoke them in your pipe, and that heals up your character. Trying to find windows in those toughest boss fights to heal using your pipe is a skill in and of itself, and that it's actually way, 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 way easier to try and min-max and learn how to defeat the boss without getting hit than it is to try and learn gaps to use your vial. And you're right. I think Silksong is proving there are frequent bosses where, don't try and heal. You're just going to die anyway. So, why don't you try and take out this boss without getting hit?
I think also like there's something much more natural for me about like being able to heal jumping in the air. You know, I'm jumping around all the time, and like having that space to be like, right, they're going to do a ground move, so I'm going to jump in the air and heal while that ground move is happening.
Oh, I didn't really know you could do that. Okay.
Yeah. Oh my god, it saved me so many times being able to jump and heal.
Have you got the ability? Can I spoil this one ability? Is it?
Yeah, it's fine. Go ahead.
Okay, so it's the ability. It says in the description like you can defend yourself while you heal. How does that work? Because you do still get hit. Do you get hit for less damage, or does it just interrupt the heal and you can't die from it? Or
I actually don't really know how that works, mainly because I didn't have it for the longest time, and
right.
I only got it like an hour ago because I was in a Discord. I was like, why do I see people healing online and they have like this magic circle around them? And I was like, what the fuck is that? It turned out I had just missed it basically because it's in the far fields area.
Okay,
And I was in a place where trying to get back to the original area was just a bit of a nightmare because I didn't actually have a route back. There's like a break point between Act 1 and Act 2, and I'm like, okay, I'm in this totally separate space now, and there's no easy way for me to actually get home. And so I was waiting for an opportunity where I was able to, and that was like 3 or 4 hours into Act 2. And then I was like, right, okay, now I need to ask people where this thing is, because I'm this far into the game, but I've seen people on like early bosses using this ability, and I have no idea what the fuck it is. So yeah, I only recently got it.
I'm fairly convinced it protects you from taking damage beyond what you already had, if that makes sense. So if you say you've got 1 health and you try and use it to heal up and you get hit, you remain on 1 health, you don't die. It's my guess. Like it will still interrupt your healing. You won't heal, but you won't die. I guess.
Might have to do some testing on it to see.
Yeah. Anyway, I got a different ability that links to the collecting of those green,
the rosaries,
the
and
green,
all the...
no, the green berries, and I used that one. I used that one instead.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Yeah. Should we talk about the crest? Because I think that's an interesting kind of diversion here.
I've got a question about my crest. Okay,
sure.
So when I use the Reaper crest, it's basically like slightly extended reach.
It's like slightly slower as well, right?
I think it hits slightly harder. I don't even know if that's true or not.
It doesn't. So that's the thing that is key, that the damage output does not change with a crest. Damage output only changes when you upgrade your pin power, essentially.
Why does, when I'm wearing the Wheat Reaper crest, do I glow after I heal, and what does it mean?
That's a great question, because I also have no idea. I also don't know.
And is it linked to the Reaper crest, or is it linked to something else? Like I don't even know.
I believe it is, because I was watching someone else play and they had the Reaper crest, and that was also happening to them.
Google
and I was like,
what is going on?
What the fuck is going on? But that's the thing. Honestly, I actually kind of love that about where we're at right now with Silksong, is like there's so much unexplained shit that no one knows because the game has come out and no one has had access to it previously. And so people just figuring it out themselves and just like, stumbling across what does this actually mean, I think is actually kind of part of the fun of what I've been doing. I have really been trying to not look anything up in this game so far, and I've pretty much done that for the most part. I think there's like one thing, so that asking people online about the magic circle and where that thing, that charm we just talked about that was one thing that I did ask people about and look up. But aside from that, I've pretty much been blind throughout this whole thing, and I've really enjoyed that as an experience, just because games like this, games about mystery, games that like take influence from the Souls genre, I think a lot of the time, with Souls games, I'm like, I just want to know, because I'm like, I don't want to be scared or frustrated or whatever. And because I'm enjoying the moment to moment of this game so much, of like, I don't know, like I've got a quest right now to get 5 different food items, and I have no idea who has what or where I should go to get them. And that's great because I'm just going to talk to the NPCs and try and figure out where I need to go and what I need to do, basically, which I've enjoyed a lot.
How many crests do you have?
I have 3. I have the option to get a 4th one. So basically, crests you get from churches, basically, like chapels, whatever they're called. So any of those buildings that have candles outside them, you go inside, it's like Chapel of the Blank, whatever, and then that's kind of the crest that you get.
I've only got basically 2, the starting one and Reaper.
Yeah. So I have a third one, which is the one that I use most of the time. Again, it's the most NPZ ass.
Have I missed one so far, or am I? I don't have the ability to get it yet.
I don't think you can get this one yet.
Good to know.
I believe. But this one is just like, hey, guess what? You like being fast? This one's about being fast, basically. So that's the one that I'm using.
Yeah.
I like it because it's fucking quick and agile, and like I can get a lot of hits in very fast, which is great.
Is the range
it also
tiny?
Smaller, yes,
Okay.
it is smaller, but it's very, very agile. And it's the way that it works is a lot of fun. And there's a specific move that I like doing with it that is really satisfying to pull off. So, yeah, that one also interestingly doesn't have a different pogo. It has the same down pogo as the Reaper. So just a regular Hollow Knight pogo.
All right.
So I wonder if there's only 2 pogo types in the game, of like the angle down and then the regular down. But I don't have that many crests yet. So there's one that I can go and get. And that boss, I've heard from everyone, is the most annoying boss in the game. It's the one that Mal Oregon was mentioning on Discord today. That one is truly fucked, apparently. And I haven't gone and fought it yet because I've heard terrible things about it. But I believe you get another crest from that area, basically. So, so the crests are interesting. I think, like, the fact that you have multiple of them and you can unlock different memory slots in each of them, and some of them have more. So each of the slots, right, is either red or blue or yellow, and each of those corresponds with a different set of items. So like the red items are your sub weapon, the blue items are like more passive buffs, and then the yellow items are, I say, maybe more active ones, I guess, although the yellow one is the magnetic one, and the compass is what I've got attached to that. So maybe those are more passive, but they're just like designated in separate areas for whatever reason.
Did you buy the magnetic one?
I did buy the magnetic one, yes.
Yeah, nice.
That is very satisfying because I don't want to be running around collecting them all. I want them to just zoop into me very, very easily. So yeah, both of those are just mainstays. Like, that's the problem with those, is like I can't remove them because I need them both because they're satisfying and I like them and they're helpful. So I think that reduces the flexibility. I do think that one thing that I hope changes later on is the ability to change crests on the fly, because right now you have to go to a bench to change them. You also have to go to a bench to just swap out the items on each crest as well. So
I would be shocked if that changes late game.
Yeah, I'm just thinking about it in terms of you have such limited space on each crest in terms of what you put there. So yeah, I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe you're right, but
I would guess there are late game crests that will just have loads of slots.
I don't know, because it feels like all the crests so far have the same number of slots. The difference is what
Allocation.
colors they have available.
Right, yeah.
So like, I think the original Hunter crest has 3 yellows, 2 blues, and 1 red. And then the Reaper is 222, I think.
Yeah.
Or yeah, so there's some combination of the different ones anyway. So it depends on like which items you use more and which ones that you're most reliant upon. Like if you take actually, I think the Hunter has 2 slots for red actually. So I could attach 2 sub-weapons, and one of them is ZL up and one of them is ZL down, or ZR, sorry. So you can actually have 2 sub-weapons if you have that one, which is quite cool. So that is actually also my most powerful crest at the moment, because I got a weird secret upgrade somewhere that was behind a strange door that I was able to upgrade that, but I'm not using it because I prefer the downward stab at the moment of the quicker one. So yeah, there's trade-offs with each of them, and I feel like I have been swapping relatively frequently. I'm mainly using the quick one at the moment, but yeah, I haven't been sticking necessarily to one or the other. It just depends on the situation, I would say, and what you want to use, because like the dash attack with the Reaper is like an upswing type of deal that seems quite different. So yeah, they all have their little quirks essentially, which I think is cool.
Shall we jump in on these questions?
Yeah, we've got a couple that I think would be relevant, especially because we haven't really talked about characters and kind of like NPC stuff that much, because we do have towns and we have, you know, the first town you get to, there's other towns that you can get across the course of the game, and the one that you've just run through is an interesting one as well, because that's like a weird place.
I can't address that yet, can I?
Yeah, no, I don't think so. I think we will save that, but So Matt Lorigan, the aforementioned, mentions, who is your favorite weird little bug so far?
Easily for me, it is, I wrote down the name, Garmond and Zaza.
Ah, yes,
Yeah.
your friends who help you. Yes, yeah.
I hope that they return.
I have seen them again, I will
Good.
say. Another juncture, yes.
Shall I reveal what they do, or is that too spoilery?
No, I think it's very Soulsy. It's a very Souls-like thing that they do, basically.
You discover this knight who rides on Zaza, who's a bug. I guess Garmin's also a bug. Everyone's a bug.
Yeah. But one's an anthropomorphic bug, one's a non-anthropomorphic bug.
Yes, exactly. One's animal bug, one is person bug. And person bug riding animal bug, you give him some money, and then he's like, oh,
maybe yes.
You give him something.
I think he just asks you, do you want help? And you're like, yes or no. Basically.
I'm like, yes. I'm pretty sure. And then suddenly, the next time I'm facing a boss, or the specific boss in his area, he rides on in, and he's like, ah, and he's like, just like these, like a traditional knight riding a horse, but it's just very funny and I presume helpful, because that boss just took so many hits, and to think how many hits that boss would take without his assistance terrifies me.
Right, because he also like blocks attacks for you as well.
Yes,
it's very helpful.
So really, really cool. I just think they're hilarious, and I enjoyed them.
That's great. I thought you might go for the Bell Beast, our little dog friend who travels around and takes us to all the locations. Cool. So he's a good little bug. Obviously, everyone loves Sherma. She's the old lady who's singing at the gate, and you know, she's a fanatic, but in like a, I don't know, not in a zealous way, but in a like, yes, I must follow my faith and go towards the Citadel and make my way there. And Sherma does pop up a few times on your journey to go there, basically, which I think is quite fun.
What about the singing warrior grasshopper lady who sells you maps?
Oh, yes. Yeah, the map seller. Yeah, she's cool. I do like her quite a lot. She's very cool.
Moves around a lot and has tripped me up a few times where I'm like, I now have enough beads. I'll go back. Oh, she's not here anymore.
She's not there.
Yeah.
There's actually, if you go back to the base town area, I can't remember, Bone Bottom, I think. If you go to Bone Bottom and you hit a little thing, there's a little, not a bell, but it's like, it's sticking out on the ledge there. If you hit that, you can summon her there to come and talk to you.
Okay.
Which I did accidentally, and I was like, oh shit, okay. And she appeared, and I was like, great, well, I need to buy stuff from you.
And you can then buy maps for areas you've been to there, can't you?
Yes, yeah. So if you miss her on the path, then you can get her there instead, which is very convenient and helps a lot. I think my favorite is actually the innkeeper. I think Chaig is his name or something. But he's just the guy it's basically, I think it's like one of the best locations in the game. It's in Greymoor. Greymoor's a very rainy place. It's very grey, as the name suggests. It feels like an original Hollow Knight level. But it's the place where all the birds are as well. And he has a really nice little side quest where you basically have to farm a bunch of birds and get their feathers, and then he makes a giant scarecrow on the roof, which just then stays there, which is very, very cool. But I just like his vibe. He is a very chill guy, and I just like that in a lot. You also have the weird fucking like love bug. I don't know what to call her, but she's painting upstairs in the inn.
Okay, yeah.
And she's the one who gives you the quest to catalog all the enemies, basically.
Oh,
so
yeah.
it's like kill the enemies a certain number of times, or just find the enemies, basically. And once you do that, you go to her and you get stuff, basically. So, but it has a nice rest bench in it at a good location, and I just love the vibes of that area. I think it's really, really. It's like, because it's raining outside and you're inside, it feels warm and like cozy. There's something very cozy and wholesome about that spot in a game that is otherwise relatively dark. Like, you know, there's a bunch of areas like go back to Sinner's Road. That place is just a hellscape in terms of the sound design and like the enemies, and it's just like, it just makes me feel bad. And
there are a couple of areas in the original Hollow Knight like that as well, weren't there?
Right, just like have a creepiness to them that's just like unnerving.
We're gonna go big on bugs and from a creepy aspect, but yeah.
Yeah, very, very big. How have you felt? Have you been going after the quests that much, or like talking to NPCs? Because what I've noticed is it is, you know, Bally, we've talked about this before, how I never pay attention to stories in 2D games or whatever.
Yes.
It is, you know. I really have made a conscious effort to in this game. And I think part of it is because the world building is so good and the sense of place is so good that I feel compelled to talk to people and to try and understand what they're saying. And oftentimes it's, I can kind of get what they're saying, but sometimes it's a little Souls-ish in terms of the way that they present their dialogue. But it's a very, similar thing of like talking to enemies or talking to NPCs multiple times. They'll keep saying different stuff until you exhaust their dialogue and, get to a point where they keep saying the same thing again and again. So I have been doing that as well. It's like keep talking to them until they've run out of stuff to say.
Right. They do provide quests on round 2, like you said. Yeah, good point.
Yeah, exactly. Have you found that stuff?
Really good. Like I'm consciously always aware that right, I need to backtrack and I need to talk to everyone, otherwise I'm not going to be powerful enough for this next boss that's going to kick my ass. That's how I kind of feel in these types of games, especially the harder types of games. And aside from that, I'm really enjoying backtracking, and the train system is making that far more easy, and it's just a lot more enjoyable. And you're right, there are just some great characters here, and some like really satisfying just explore this area and get some collectibles and defeat these mini things and do this and do that, and like it's very satisfying. And I need to backtrack in any case to like collect rosary beads at certain points, and it's something I need to do anyway, and I'm quite in favor of backtracking, doing a few side quests, collect those rosary beads. Right, I'm gonna lock all those rosary beads away safely, and then I'm going to do like a really challenging part that's probably going to kill me a million times, but that's okay because I got loads of rosary beads up my sleeve in case I reach like a bench I need to pay for. It's like that kind of loop is kind of what I'm going for right now, and it's working well. And how enjoyable those characters are to talk to, and how easy it is to just look in your inventory and see all the wishes
the wishes
just all lined up together. That's very, very satisfying. Good game design. 2 thumbs up from me.
yeah, absolutely. I think it's just streamlining, right? Like it's not a massive change, but it's one that for me completely reframes my approach to it. And we've talked before about how the original game, we just finished it, we beat it, and we were like, right, we're not going to do any of that extra stuff, any of that kind of side things, or getting the true ending or whatever. I don't know how it's going to be with the true ending and what you need to do, but I am so in love with this game that I do really feel like I want to try and do that this time. Like there's something about it where I'm like, I'm fascinated by what the hell is going on here. And like, you have that cutscene at the beginning, you're being carried and you drop down to the bottom, and it's like, okay, well, I have to get to this place, the Citadel. And I think just the name Citadel is very evocative, and you're like, oh, I wonder what that place is going to look like, what it's going to be like inside. And I think they've just done a really good world-building job of like building up to what is this place? Why are people like taking this pilgrimage to it? Like, what is this faith, this religion that's going on? There's lots of interesting like world-building things that are just really, I don't know, getting to me in a way that I just want to keep going. And just like finding new areas is surprising, and being like, oh wow, what is this space? It looks totally different, and there's weird characters in here. And I think they in their trailer famously they're like over 200 enemies, and you look at that and you're like, that's a weird thing to call out. But what it means is that every space you get to is like there's a new set of things to learn, because ultimately Hollow Knight, I would say, is a franchise, a series about not getting hit, right? It is far more about dodging out the way of attacks than it is you attacking enemies, right? That's an important part because you have to kill them, but the most important thing is learning how enemies move, how they kind of get at you, and then trying to deal with it. I think this is something as well that has been brought up by the internet, generally speaking, is the way that enemies move and the annoyingness sometimes of their patterns. Those fucking birds we've already talked about, but those guys are just like, they can be a pain in the ass to hit because of the way that they move and the speed of their attacks. And I would say that almost every enemy is like this, where it just has something a little bit annoying about it you just have to figure out. But once you do, then generally you're okay. It's just a lot of practice and patience.
There's not many enemies where you can take a back seat. You will get hit, and getting hit is bad. You will die very quickly because a lot of those hits do 2 damage. And yeah, you've got to focus a ton.
Yeah, 100%. So I do think that that's an aspect that is kind of like tricky for people, but I think overall.
Can I pick up on one thing you were talking about before? So you're talking about like,
yeah, totally,
the Citadel. What's it going to be like when I get there? we were both talking on WhatsApp about how shocked we both were that when the game opens, it says Act 1. And it's like, wow.
Which is kind of a weird thing as well. Like in other video games, you wouldn't be that surprised. But for some reason, Hollow Knight, Metroidvania, and it says Act 1, you're like, what the fuck do you
because
mean?
It means like, right, we're leaning a bit more into story. Fair enough. That's interesting. But secondly, it kind of means, right, well, the original Hollow Knight was all about openness. You could go anywhere you wanted fairly early on. There, I guess there were linear parts. And this game clearly has linear parts, more open parts. But it has to come together for the end of Act 1. And then let's pretend there's 3 acts. I don't know how many acts there are. It will have to come together in some way at the end of Act 2. And likewise, it'll have to come together, I presume, in the final boss, end of Act 3. So, like, there are certain beats that this very linear yet potentially very open game has to hit. And I just think that's a very interesting design for a series that was just so renowned for being quite open with the first game. So I'm intrigued. I do want to see what the Citadel's all about. Right.
I will say that it maintains that sense of openness, I think, still, while guiding you towards a path of where you're supposed to go. Okay. And I think that's the case for Act 2 as well as Act 1, right? Like, I think getting to Act 2 is a thing where I spent a long time going around the world just like trying to find places to be like, where's the next area I should be going to, because the game doesn't actually make it very clear. And so you have to go around and you have to look. Like I've spent maybe, I don't know, let's say 20% of my time playing this game just staring at the map, just looking at it and being like, okay, that path there, but what if could I go through that angle? No. Okay. And then there are certain things, and I think very important, pay attention to what is shown on the map and like what the shapes of rooms are, but also like tiny illustrations. Like sometimes there are literal tiny illustrations that you would look at and be like, you probably wouldn't think about it. But if you look at it for long enough, you're like, wait, is that telling me that thing is there? And then that really opened up a couple of things for me of like, oh shit, the map actually tells me these things. I just have to really stare at it and see and find what it's actually trying to tell me, which I think is just incredibly subtle design. I think this game is so good at that. It's expertly crafted from a subtle design standpoint. The example I go to is in the Deep Docks area, which is like fiery, basically. There's lots of hot stuff going on. There's this fire surface, right? And so you first come across it with like this mining guy. He's got a pot on his head and he's kind of like digging in the corner, and you go and kill him and he falls over, and he falls over in such a way that he's kind of like on fire, and so he falls onto the fire and he just like burns to death, and you're like, okay, so obviously it kind of immediately tells you, right, so this can hurt you, the fire is there, which is obvious in video games, stuff like that. But then you kind of get further in and it's like, okay, there's these stretches of like long fire, and I'm like, well, if I step on that, it's probably going to kill me, right, if I go on it, so I probably shouldn't. And then I noticed there are these enemies. They're like kind of like giraffe-looking guys, but all they do is just hop. They just hop, 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 and they're just hopping on the fire. And I'm looking at it. I'm like, wait a fucking second. This is like Super Metroid. This is like when they teach you the wall jump with the animals. Yes. Instead, there's this little giraffe guy hopping on the fire, which shows you if you also hop on the fire, not run on it, but instead of just doing little jumps on the fire, you will be able to get across it as well. And I was like, oh my God, this, like, it's just such simple, clean, elegant design that shows without telling and is very easy for the player to look at and subconsciously just think, wow, that's how I should be crossing this thing. I thought that was brilliant, and it's such a simple thing, but it just shows the care that has gone into thinking about every single aspect of the game.
I admit I jumped on the fire before seeing the draft people. So
I'm sure lots of people
gambled,
did.
But, yeah.
Right, yeah, but I think like I probably would have done the same, but I was like, I was kind of standing there being like, there's all that fire, how do I get across it? And then I just noticed them jumping, and you can see underneath their feet like the slight sizzle, but then it disappears, and I was like, wow, okay, that's really smart. So yeah, stuff like that has really impressed me. I think just like the unique interactions, there's a moment that happened that just like I was just walking across a field area and suddenly something happened, and I was like, oh my God, the next hour of this game is totally different because of this thing that just happened as I was wandering the world. And I can imagine a place in which people don't come across that, and therefore they find this other thing somewhere much later in the game. And I was like shell-shocked by it. I was like, holy shit, this is so cool, what they're doing here, and the way that it's all set up and the premise and everything. And I don't know, maybe it is coded in a way that everyone has to run across it, but it felt so natural to me that I was like, wow, this is really, really cool. So yeah, I don't think you'll have encountered that yet, but that was very impressive, that kind of moment. And then there's like just funny little things. So the guys who are looking after the fleas, the kind of troop of flea guys, and they're like,
yes, I need to go back to them actually, because I found one or two. So.
Yeah, if you find I think 6 of them, then they move on to a new area, and then the more you find, they're like a caravan basically, and they kind of move to different areas. Anyway, I found like another person to join their caravan, and so he joined. And this guy's like a little bit of a skeevy little bug. He's like a bit of a wheeler dealer, but he's also like, I don't know, he's making comments about Hornets, like, oh, what a beautiful lady you are, that type of thing. And so he's like, oh yes, please try my hot spa. And so he opens his door, and you go inside, and it's like, oh, like it's hot water, and you realize, oh, the hot water's like, it's healing me, but also it's filling up my silk as well at the same time. It's also filling up my crest stuff. And so I'm just in there like healing, and then in the background there's a little window up top, and you notice like he's just like starting to peek out, and he's like fucking trying to look at you while you're in the bath, basically. His little fucking eyes. And then so what I did was I'm like fuck you, I jump up there and I hit him with my my pin, because I'm like, get out of here. It fucking hits him off, knocks him off the cage. You can hear him groan and fall to the ground. And then you walk outside, and he's on the floor, and he has like a bruise on his face, and he's rubbing it, and he's like, oh, I'm sorry, I'll never do that again. And so from that point onwards, he doesn't charge you any money to go and take a bath, because he's embarrassed because you caught him looking and you knocked him out. It's such a unique interaction, and just very funny. But like the fact that they took the time to put that in there, it just shows the level of polish this game has, and like the years of development. Multiple things. There's a surprise. I went back to the home village area today, and something just suddenly happened there. Like I was like, what the fuck is going on here? Like things just start happening, and it feels like a moment that isn't scripted. It's like, what the fuck? Why did this suddenly start happening? Which is so cool. And yeah, I'm very excited for you to get to those parts, because I think they're really surprising, and really, really great. So yeah. Cool. We do have some more questions here, Bally, to cover before we go. Just a couple more.
We have a question from Capsule J, who says, should someone who hasn't played the original Hollow Knight jump straight into Silksong at this point, or is playing the original essential?
It's interesting, because I think what you were mentioning earlier, Bally, is a valid point of you were prepped for this in a way from having already played Hollow Knight, and so some of the more esoteric things, some of the harder to get over things, like the map making and the benches and all that sort of stuff, you already knew. And so that was a layer of, okay, I'm already familiar with this, therefore I can focus on the things that are not familiar, and those are the things that kind of like ease you into it a little bit more. I guess it depends on your familiarity with Soul stuff generally, I would say, as well. But in terms of like narratively, or like, just jumping in and playing a game, I don't think you do need to play the original, if I'm honest. I do think they are quite distinct games, despite being very similar in like tons of ways. Just the way in which the characters move and control, and some of the subtler things like healing, I do think that they feel like distinct experiences. They feel distinct in the same way that Dark Souls is different from Bloodborne, right? Like Bloodborne is a faster game. It is a game where aggression is rewarded, and you definitely have a different approach to combat versus, Bally, you'll always do the turtle strategy, but original Hollow Knight feels like, okay, I'm just kind of staying in a corner and being slow and patient, and there's an agility and a aggression to Hornet's moveset that makes it feel more of that style. So I think it kind of depends on like what style do you prefer. And I mean, very clearly for me and you as well, it's like this is the version of Hollow Knight that we're more into because of that kind of faster pace to it. But I think it kind of depends on your personal sensibility, right, and what type of games that you get drawn towards. Because if you do like the slow, more methodical approach, the more I would say darker atmospherically. Like, I definitely think there's dark areas in Silksong, but it is generally a brighter game in terms of palette and in terms of areas. And Hollow Knight, like I said, is very grey and brown the whole way through. It looks great, it looks gorgeous still, but it still has that very muted palette, I would say, overall.
I think narratively, Silksong is clearly stepping up quite a bit, like we said, with the acts. I think there's also cutscenes. I don't think the original Hollow Knight had.
Yeah.
I think it had like.
I think it has like before the final boss, and maybe at the beginning it had cutscenes, but maybe those were the only ones. I think also
I feel like Silksong already has more, and I'm still early on.
And original Hollow Knight also just felt like its lore was a lot harder to understand and get into.
Right.
Like, it didn't feel like it was trying to get you to understand what the story was. You had to do it yourself, much more so.
Yeah.
And I think this game is giving. Oh, the other thing we haven't talked about. Hornet talks, which I think is a big deal because the knight was a mute protagonist, right? And what often happens in these games is it's just NPCs talking at you. And I think it's a really cool thing that because Hornet was a character in the first game and she talked to you in the first game, she has her own voice, she has her own opinions, and she talks to characters and has perspective on things. And I actually really like that. I think it works very nicely and actually has helped with understanding the narrative and the choices being made and that sort of stuff. Like, I think Hornet being a character and talking is actually a pretty big deal here.
I think one thing I might go back and do is just look up like a story explainer of the first game, because I think there probably will be at least a few things that will link, if not a lot more things might link later on. I don't know, but that's something I might do if you care about the story.
Yeah, I have no idea if this is a sequel or a prequel at all. I actually am not sure of that.
Well, that's a good point. I assumed it was a sequel, but you might be right. Yeah, it could be prequel.
Well, I don't remember what happens with Hornet in the first game, and I guess in the true ending, she like helps you with the final boss. She jumps in there and pins him down and stuff. But yeah, I don't really know what is supposed to have happened after that.
There is a boss fairly early on in this game. I think they're called Lace. I can't remember.
Lace, yes.
Yeah. Are they the protagonist for the third game?
Hollow Knight 3, Lace Song, Shoelace, everyone's favorite. I really like that boss fight. Like, that feels like the Hornet fight of Silksong, right? Like, the way that it's set up, the way that character is portrayed.
They are very much Fencer style.
Yes.
Mael, like, there we go.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, definitely has that vibe to it. Absolutely. That Lace fight is really good. That's one of the early good fights. So yeah, I feel like that's going to be a character who pops up again and is going to be doing stuff potentially. So I don't really know what their deal is and what's going on, but feels like they are an important part of what's happening. I don't know. I do think that honestly, both games are worth playing. I probably wouldn't play them back to back like a lot of people have been doing, but I think they are distinct enough on their own, and I don't think it matters the order you play them in either, because I wouldn't say Silksong's an upgrade. I would say it's a sidestep. It's like it's doing a lot of different things, but I wouldn't call them better necessarily. I would say for me they're better just from a personal taste perspective, but I think for a lot of people, other people prefer the way that Hollow Knight plays and controls, and that's totally fair and totally valid. And I think it just comes down to your own personal preference. But should you play the first one first? I don't think it really matters. I think just play whichever one speaks to you more, and then go back and play the other one afterwards, honestly. So yeah that's what I'd say.
Join the hype train. It's all about Silksong right now. That's what.
Yeah, absolutely. And that is a big part of like the fun of I'm having right now is like,
definitely.
No one knows what's going on, and so there's a mystery to it. There's a discovery. There's 10
people who have beat the game. It was much higher at this point, but like
probably only like a couple of thousand at this point in time, because I mean, who has that many hours? I've played. Well, here's an important thing, right? I finished the original Hollow Knight in 20 hours, right? I completely finished it in 20 hours. That was the main playthrough.
You're not going to beat this game in 2 hours.
No chance of it. Yeah, and I don't know if Act 2 is the final act or if there is an Act 3 or what, because I've been looking on How Long to Beat, and How Long to Beat seems to have it at the moment at 20 hours, and that is profiling, I believe. Yeah, but that's profiling 20 people right now. And I already know I'm going to be over that because I have spent a lot of time doing side quests, right? I've actually bummed around a bunch and like gone and tried to find things for the side quests, which I was currently doing before we started recording the show. I was like trying to do this stuff, and then I realized there's an area that I actually don't have yet, which one of the things is. So I'm going to go back and do it later. But yeah, I feel like I still have quite a lot to go, and it feels like I'm getting to a crescendo, but I'm not sure what that is going to end up being. And if it's like a kind of down, Act 2, and then you go down, and then you come back with Act 3, and that sort of thing. But I have no clue.
Nothing has 2 acts, surely. It's got to be 3.
Right, like why do you do an act structure?
Yeah.
It's because you have at least 3 acts, right?
I think that was someone's criticism of Expedition 33 was, why did they call them acts? Because it made me immediately assume there were 3 acts, Right,
yeah, totally. There is an assumption to be made that. I do wonder if the length of the acts is going to be, like, is Act 1 by far the longest, and then Act 2 is shorter, and then Act 3 is really short?
That sounds right, yes.
It could be the case that Act 3 is tiny. Maybe Act 3 is one boss fight, who knows? But yeah, I do think that we will get a thing that says Act 3. And whether that's a substantial amount of game left, who knows? What I am pretty confident in is there's probably a lot of optional stuff in this game. Like, the way that they build Hollow Knight, and the way that this feels like it's been 7 years, like, I'm assuming there's going to be lots of optional secret boss stuff to do that is, going to increase the play count for a lot of people. Not us necessarily. It depends. We'll see how far I go with that. But, I mean, so far, I'm very much wanting to do everything, wanting to do all the wishes, and, try and find everything on the map that I can just to help myself get better and all that sort of stuff. So, yeah.
Right.
Cool. I think we've got one more question, which I think we probably should have asked at the beginning, but I think we forgot to. But yeah, Bally, you want to take this one?
This question's from Tin. Couple of questions, actually. Question number 1, do you think we will see an indie game with this level of hype, anticipation, pre-release fantasism ever again? And question 2, have either of you ever watched any of Mossbag's videos on YouTube? And if so, what do you think of them? If not, he makes humorous but thorough Hollow Knight lore videos, and you should watch them. I've not seen those. Have you seen those, MZ?
I've heard of Mossbag. Yeah, he's pretty well known in the Hollow Knight community scene. I think he's like what Vati Vidya is to Dark Souls stuff, he is to Hollow Knight stuff, I guess. Like, he does like lore deep dives and those types of things, which I've never been that interested in, but maybe I will go watch them now that you're really into Silksong's story and characters and world. Yeah. Exactly. I think that probably will be a good thing to go check out. Because Elden Ring is a game where I had no fucking idea what was going on at all. I was intrigued by it, but I had no fucking clue what was going on. Then I went and watched Vati Vidya stuff, and first of all, that man has some of the best fucking production value on the internet. Holy shit. When in 25 years, Bally, when you finish Elden Ring, you've got to go watch Vati Vidya. He is so fucking good. Holy shit. The production value on his videos is astoundingly good. It told me everything that I needed to know, which was great. So I'm glad people like that exist on the internet to tell us stupid people what to know about. But Bally, do you think it's ever going to happen again? Are we ever going to get an indie game with this level of anticipation? Yes, and that game is Haunted Chocolatier. Okay, all right. Well, is this a thing? I don't know. It feels like the audience for Haunted Chocolatier. Now, I can't remember where I talked about this, but there is a scale here that is actually quite funny, which is, okay, so Hollow Knight sold 15 million copies, and everyone's like, oh my god, that's crazy for an indie game. Stardew Valley has sold double that. Stardew Valley has sold 30 million copies. And yet, I feel like the anticipation for Haunted Chocolatier is a lot less than the anticipation for Hollow Knight. And I think it's to do with audience. It's to do with the types of people who are playing those games. Hollow Knight appeals to internet sickos, right? People who are hardcore into the hobby, who like video games a lot, who are deep in that shit. Stardew Valley is a very casual game. It's an extremely casual game that almost anybody could play, that is easy to jump into and understand, and I guarantee you at least 15 or 20 million of those people are not on the internet in the way that most people are, right? I think that there is a level of anticipation for Haunted Chocolatier, but I think it's a much smaller voice, or you're hearing less about it because that crowd are not plugged in the way the Hollow Knight crowd are, basically. I think what you've said is true. I do also think timeline and sense of promise is a factor as well. And what I mean by that is Silksong started as DLC. So it was quote unquote just around the corner. 2019. Here we go. It's almost here. And then the hype was there. I mean, Nintendo played it at their fucking treehouse in that year. The hype was there, and then it was
actually it's delayed, and actually it's a full game, and actually we'll come back and say more on this later. And then the hype built and built and built. And I think the hype partially built because there was no definitive, oh yeah, it is coming out. It's going to come out in 2024 or 5. There was never a date down the line given, so it was always assumed to be sooner.
People weren't given anything, and so people
filled the vacuum.
Like people went mad of like no one. There's no communication, and this is one of those cases where I genuinely think if Team Cherry had been communicative, this game would not have had the fanaticism that it currently has experienced. And I think the fact that they were radio silent and said nothing just built an aura around the game of nobody knows what the fuck is going on, basically.
And in fact, it's the ironic thing of, according to Jason Schreier, like, the aura around the game sold more copies of Hollow Knight and therefore made them more money, and therefore they were in no rush in the slightest to get this next game out because they were already rolling in the 15 million copies they were in the process of selling in the hype train. And that's where I think there is a comparison to Eric Barone and Stardew Valley and Haunted Chocolatier. Is that man takes such a long time. Like, I've read that chapter in Schreier's book about Stardew Valley, and that guy went delayed Stardew Valley, and constantly
he redid the character sprites 4 times throughout
exactly
development or something.
So if you think he did the character sprites 4 times on his first game, he's going to be redoing the character sprites 30-40 times on his second game, having already sitting on a big stack of cash from the first game that is making money as we speak. And as you just said, MBZ has sold twice the number of units as Hollow Knight. So
yeah, I think I said this on the show, but last year, 2024, the year that Balatro came out, right, the first year on the market, which is usually the year when you make all your money, Stardew Valley made more money on Steam than Balatro did last year. That's how much it sells. That is the level. It's astonishing how popular that game is.
And it's been out for almost a decade. It was 2016 originally.
I think next year will be a decade. Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
So like. That's where I think the comparison is with Haunted Chocolatier. As much as I agree with you, I think that the style of game and the genre that Silksong is appeals to a very different, more engaged audience.
Yeah, I think that definitely makes a lot of sense. I think the only other challenger, and I think there's a reason this hasn't happened, is if Deltarune wasn't a chapter-based thing, if Deltarune was here's a single sequel to Undertale, and Toby Fox had been sitting on it since Undertale, which also came out in 2016, I want to say, Deltarune would be the only other thing. The fact that Deltarune has released partially, and there are bits of it you can play, has dampened the excitement, but if that hadn't been the case, I probably would say confidently, Deltarune's anticipation would have been bigger than Hollow Knight Silksong's, because the fandom and the audience behind Undertale, you watch that fucking video, the Super Eye Patch Wolf video, it is terrifying. So I think, let's say that Toby Fox releases a third game in the Undertale style after Deltarune is done, and that takes him 10 years. I think that is almost the only example I could think of something that would have the same level of hype, anticipation, fanaticism as Silksong has had. But also he would have to not communicate, and he kind of has been communicating about it. So I think that's the unique thing here, is that it's the fact that Team Cherry said fucking nothing that is the thing that made this like such a viral success, which is crazy.
Well, here's the blueprint, MBZ. You announce Balatro 2, and then you don't say a word for 5 years, and you just sit on the cash from Balatro 1.
You're right, yeah. Oh dear.
I mean, Hades 2, I'm guessing you're thinking is a few rungs below these discussions.
Oh, certainly. Yeah, and also just like the time between them. Hades was 2020, and Hades 2 came out last year in early access. There's only 4 years of waiting, and it was also revealed pretty soon after Hades 1 had come out. So far shorter time. I mean, exciting, very exciting, and obviously has been very successful so far, but not enough time to build the hype, I think,
right.
Which I think is a key factor here in terms of its impact and the way it's landed. I wonder if Sandfall's next game could have something of that vibe.
That is a great shout if you count it as like an indie, but yes.
Yeah, totally. Because I do, and they have said they don't want to scale up. They want to stay the same size, all that sort of stuff, which is very admirable, and I think that makes a lot of sense. But it's a question of how long it takes them to make a new thing. I feel like, it took them 5 years to make Expedition 33, and like maybe they're pretty efficient as a team. Maybe they are going to be able to do something in another 5 years. That could be the case. But yeah, I think it will be exciting, and people anticipate it, but that's the thing. I think that the level of hype and anticipation for Hollow Knight Silksong is really unlike anything we've seen before. And I think meme culture and the way that it was just like built up in the internet sphere is really the secret sauce as to why that was the case. Because you have anticipation for stuff like Half-Life 3 or whatever that's potentially going to come out at some point, but it's such a different thing to what Hollow Knight was, because the thing with Silksong was it was playable in 2019 at Nintendo Treehouse, for God's sake. Like it was a thing that was so tangible, and yet it somehow was impossible and far away. So yeah, very, very unique circumstance, for sure. Okay, cool. Is there anything else, Bally, that we have not mentioned thus far about Hollow Knight Silksong that you would like to say about it before we go away and play more of it and then come back next time and potentially talk about some more spoilery stuff?
Yeah. I think I covered everything. I'm having an incredible time with it. And yeah, I'm very, very, very glad I played Nine Souls earlier this year. If you want to warm up for this game, I guess Nine Souls isn't even a warm up. It's just like this ridiculous challenge ahead of this game. But like, go check out that game. It's a good game.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, the one thing that I have figured out that is frustrating me is the Switch 2 in handheld mode, right? Okay, so when I'm trying to press buttons, which in this case is B and Y for jump and attack, my thumb is on top of the analog stick in a way that like it never was on the original Switch. And I don't know if anyone else is having this issue, but it just feels very awkward to play in handheld mode because my thumb is almost being blocked by the analog stick. Now, Bal, I hold controllers weirdly and all that sort of stuff. But
you need to take a video of you holding a controller and send it to everyone.
I do, because I went back to the original Switch and I was like, this was not a problem before. Why is this the case? And it's something to do with the way that they've done the Joy-Con 2. It is just in the way. And so the way I'm fucking holding this in handheld, it's actually why I've not played it more in handheld mode, is because it's actually a little bit annoying to like hold my hand at a certain angle so that I avoid the analog stick when I'm pressing the B and Y buttons. So that's just an engineering thing for Nintendo. They didn't think about me when designing the Switch 2, so that's really frustrating. But I think it's just going to happen. It's only going to happen in cases like this, where it's like a side-scrolling game where you have to press B and Y at the same time, which unfortunately that's the type of game I'd like to play on Switch. So that kind of sucks. Or if
they made different versions of the Switch and they've named them different crests, and you could have like the buttons and the locations that you chose.
This would work.
There we go.
This would be great.
Modular.
Yeah, come on, take a modular design. Take a note from Team Cherry's playbook and make sure that you do that. Do it.
Is this your favorite Australian game?
That's a great question. Probably, yeah. I mean, I'm trying to think. What are the other big Australian games?
Sidebar games.
Oh, of course,
but we won't talk about
Golf
Sports Story. That was not.
No, the less said about that, the better. Unfortunately, wasn't there like a 2K Australia made like Borderlands the pre-sequel, everyone's favorite Borderlands game? I don't know what other Australian studios there are, to be honest with you.
There's also they made Unpacked. Unpacking, there we go. Yes.
Are they? I didn't think they were. Are they Australian?
They're Australian. I'm looking at a list now. Untitled Goose Game.
I listened to a podcast that they were on. I don't remember them being Australian, but maybe they are. Maybe I've forgotten.
They definitely are.
Okay, all right. The Goose Game devs. Yeah. I remember that.
Witchbeam.
Witchbeam. Yeah, those are the Unpacking devs, right?
Yeah. Doesn't say where they're from. I remember an interview with, and they had Australian accents, but.
Okay, maybe I've just rewritten it as American in my brain because that's what everybody is.
Cult of the Lamb is Australian, apparently.
Oh, Massive Monster Australian. Yeah, that makes sense. Yep.
Forza Horizon 3 was in Australia.
Sure, that counts, but yeah.
The Forgotten City is apparently Australian.
Oh, that's a fucking tight.
Here's another one
oh
you
my
love.
God.
The Artful Escape is Australian.
Oh yes, of course. Also, Mixtape is from that same team, so
Yeah.
that will also be coming out. Yeah, man, I'm gonna have to sit on it. Bally, you have to fucking play the Holy shit, what a fucking video game, The Forgotten City. Oh, it's so good. Oh man. Yeah,
this list claims Overwatch 2 is Australian.
That's not true. It's Blizzard. Right. Yeah, this is bullshit. Okay. I think is this Google AI doing stuff for you? Because that's probably
yeah, maybe.
Yeah,
the other ones are accurate. Fruit Ninja is Australian.
Great, yeah, everyone's favorite video game, Fruit Ninja.
BioShock Infinite.
No, that's also not.
That sounds wrong.
This is Google getting. This is why AI sucks.
It's getting the smaller games right and the big games wrong. But yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's it. That's Hollow Knight Silksong. I'm going to go play more Hollow Knight Silksong because, frankly, I would rather be doing that than anything else.
I'm weighing up Bed versus Hollow Knight Silksong, and it's a tough choice.
Yeah, it's difficult. But yeah, man, this game's fucking awesome. It's definitely more than I expected and better than I expected. And yeah, it's really captured me. So very, very much in love with what I've played so far. And yeah, I don't know. I feel like maybe 30 hours is my guess for how long it's going to take me, but we'll see.
I think I'm going to be closer to 40, but yes, I think 30 for you. Were you where I am at 8 hours, by the way, or am I going very slow?
Yeah, no, I think so. I think you're actually at a pretty good pace, to be honest with you.
Okay, good.
I think,
good.
Yeah, you're around where I was. So yeah, I think next time we'll be talking about hopefully a Nintendo Direct that gets announced, as well as a bit more Hollow Knight and then a couple of other things as well. But we shall see. And yeah, hopefully by then we shall have release dates for the rest of this year, including Metro Prime 4. And yeah, knowing when that would come out would be really nice, because if that comes out this year as well.
Any other predictions?
No, not massively. I kind of want to see something for next year, like I would.
What are they going to do for 40th anniversary Mario this year?
Oh, this is a great shout. There's definitely going to be a video game. I think it has to be a remake probably, or a remaster of some kind, right? Like that seems sensible. So maybe it is okay, here, let me pitch you on this, Barry, okay? The new Super Mario Brothers games. Everyone loves them. What if you took a 4-pack of those for 40th?
Oh.
That's one each number, 4. It makes sense. 4 new Super Mario Brothers games for 40 years. Just put them all together. Yeah, I think that's my realistic prediction.
They're the same game, damn it.
Yeah, they're all the same game. No, I don't know. I think Sunshine 2. They're going to announce Sunshine 2. That's it. Everyone will be happy.
I think they're going to drop 3D Mario at the end of this thing to come out next year.
Wow.
Now, maybe that's cheating because it doesn't come out the year of the 40th, but I don't know. Go big. Let's do it.
Yeah. They're never quite on time with this stuff anyway.
Yeah.
It's always like whether it lines up or not. But yeah, I think there'll be something. At the very least, you'll get another skin for Tetris 99. That'll be the least of our worries, but that'll definitely happen. Yeah, maybe just a bunch of Mario, maybe a Mario Kart World update, because we still don't have the DK and Pauline skins in there, so that would be nice to have. Like Bonanza came out and nothing happened. I was like, what are you doing, Nintendo? This doesn't make any sense. Surely you're waiting for the marketing beat of Bonanza, then you were going to put those costumes into Mario Kart World, and we've had nothing. Yeah,
remember when they released one of the most successful video games of all time in Animal Crossing during a pandemic, and then did one big chunk of DLC, and that was it?
Yep. Actually, I don't even think they did any DLC. I think those were just the way it worked was the monthly stuff just happened as downloads as opposed to as it usually would happen. But same thing as a regular Animal Crossing game. So yeah, that's it's frustrating, but it's what Nintendo does. So I don't expect anything more or anything less of them at this point in time. So. Yeah, we'll see. In terms of other predictions, I mean, I would like to see a Fire Emblem of some kind. There's definitely one that exists. It's a question of whether they want to announce it now. And as always, what the fuck are Monolith Soft doing? Please, somebody tell me. So I think, yeah, those are the things that I hope to see, but we'll have to wait and find out. And I'm sure there'll be a bunch of stuff like 3 more random Square Enix JRPGs that have terrible names, as usual. So, more. We're going to have more. We're not done yet. Cool. Well, Bally, that's going to do us for today's podcast. We, of course, would like to thank some folks who support the show. Those are our patrons on patreon.com/ThisNintendoLife. You can go over there and support and get bonus episodes and the such and the like. Bally, we'd like to thank some of our patrons.
Yes, we have a brand new patron. Well, I say brand new. This person supported us in June. We just forgot to read them out. But this person, thank you for your support. They are called Jarhead. So thank you, Jarhead, for your support of the show. And thank you also to our $10 tier plus patrons. They are Sullivan C, Zach S, Thomas, Matthew, Albert, Wicked Gamer UK Alan, Orange Thunder, Nintendo Man, and Ali T. Thank you all for your $10 tier plus support. MBZ, what does Ali T think of Metroidvanias?
I think he likes them. I don't know if he's played that many.
He's not played Hollow Knight, I don't think.
No, I do think Ali T should play Hollow Knight. I do think it's one of those that is definitely could be up his alley. It could be something that he's into. So yeah, I recommend Ali T pick up. It's very cheap on the eShop. You go pick up Hollow Knight, check it out, see what you think. But maybe you just jump into Silksong. You could just jump into Silksong. As we said, I don't think it really matters which one you choose. It just depends on what your preference is.
Would he play the Switch 1 version?
Of what? Of
Silksong?
He has a Switch 2, Bally.
Of course, I'm being stabbed.
He went to midnight. Remember, he stood in line at midnight and bought a Switch 2.
He's been playing
Donkey Kong. Exactly. Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah, he's only behind on the PlayStation. He doesn't have a PS5. Right. So, that needs to be sorted out at some point.
Keeps up with Nintendo. We converted that man into a Nintendo gamer. That was us.
Yep. Lovely. Yes, you can also obviously write into the show. These fine folks for this episode wrote in on Discord, but you can also email the show. Bally, where can they send those emails to?
Please send your emails to thisnintendolife@gmail.com. That is thisnintendolife@gmail.com.
Fantastic. Please do that. We always need more emails, and hopefully next time we'll get. Actually, we won't because there'll be a Nintendo Direct. But the time after that, we should do an email segment because we actually have a few backed up that would be good to get to. But yeah, please keep sending them in because we always need more. Keep that tank filled to the brim. It'd be very, very nice for you to do so. You can obviously find us in various places. We are on Blue Sky. I am at NBZ. Where are you, Bally?
I'm on Blue Sky at Ballyman91. That's BALLYMAN91.
You can also find the podcast there. That is at TNL Podcast, where you get updates about the show and such things. There's also links out to the Discord channel, which you can join, be a part of, and ask some fine questions like these folks did. But also, links to the YouTube, where we also put the podcast up as a video, so you can have it in a second tab, listen to it, all that good stuff. But generally speaking, you can download us in various places. We're in Spotify or in Stitch. You can review us or rate us on Pocket Cast, on any other podcasting app, and give us some stars, and that would be great. And then people will find the show maybe at some point and then listen to it and then think, I like this. So if you want to do that and you want to be part of that, then please go ahead and help us in that way. That would be nice. Or just tell someone about the show. Tell a friend, and that's a good way to get it out there, get the noise about the podcast. I think that's pretty much it. So next time, as I said, probably diving deeper into I hope the Nintendo Direct does happen. Otherwise, we're going to look like idiots. But a lot of people staking their reputations on the line here, so I think
this level
pretty
of
inevitable.
Rumor is normally the level that happens when one actually happens. So I'd be shocked if it doesn't happen. Yeah,
I think so. But yeah, we'll have a lot to chat about, I'm sure. But until then, thank you all so much for listening. See you soon. Goodbye.